Last week, we had a huge weekly update where Bungie went in depth into all of the balancing changes hitting Destiny 2 with the much anticipated March update. But since then, we've got a bunch more information because the Bungie developers have hit Twitter and answered a ton of fan questions pertaining to these balancing changes. And that's what we're talking about in today's video. What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, and today, yes, we just have a ton of Destiny 2 information. Now, a little bit of a warning, guys, if you're watching this video, I would highly recommend that you have read or watched a video recapping last week's This Week at Bungie. My video is linked right above if you want to check that out, because in this video, we're going to be talking as if you have read that update, and a lot of the information connects, of course, with that previous update, so fair warning. So let's just get started here with the questions, because again, the Bungie developers went to Twitter and answered so many different fan questions about these balancing changes. So there's a lot of clarifying information about sometimes specific numbers or what Bungie meant by things, and there's a lot of additional information as well. So let's start off here with the questions pertaining to weapon balance. Now, I should say that all of these questions were compiled by a Reddit user, and that Reddit post is linked in the description down below if you want to check out the original source. The first question we have here is, I noticed a lot of damage increases on pulses, scouts, etc. mentioned PvE but not PvP. Is the goal for decreasing time to kill based on buffing our abilities and power ammo spawns? Bungie developers responded, any base damage or precision damage buffs is in both PvE and PvP. Bonus PvE damage goes on top of that. So anytime you saw base damage or precision damage or archetype damage increasing, that's everything is affected, but if it said PvE damage increase, of course, that's just for PvE. So the majority of buffs were actually based in PvE, and as a PvE player, that's actually very exciting. But how much of a buff are we talking about? Well, the next question actually goes into that. The question reads, I see PvE-wise, loads of weapons are getting a damage boost. Is it a flat 10%? Or is this being individually tuned for each weapon class? And if so, possible to give us a rough idea? Bungie developers responded, changes per weapon. Think the average is currently sitting at 15%. That is no joke. A 15% damage increase for all of the things that we saw PvE damage increase for in those patch notes. So scout rifles, SMGs, sidearms, pulse rifles, pretty much everything other than auto rifles is getting a flat 15% on average damage bonus. Holy crap, that's going to change up the PvE meta for sure. Now, speaking of PvE, one of the few things to be nerfed in this upcoming update is a PvE favorite, explosive rounds. Someone asked about this. I'm curious, and I hope I'm not out of line. What went into the decision to not allow the explosive rounds to keep the damage they have in PvE? We love their overpoweredness. Bungie responds, they will deal the same damage overall in PvE. The ratio of what causes it has been tweaked. So that's good news. I think a lot of people read that it was being nerfed and got worried because it is pretty much overall the best perk to look for in a PvE weapon. But thankfully, I think things are just being tweaked, and especially with the buffs we're getting, it won't be that big of a difference. Moving on from there, someone asked a very good question that a lot of people have been talking about, and it has to do with the changes to mobility and the lack of a change to overall time to kill. The question reads, if you don't bring up time to kill in line with movement, this will lead to people being able to easily disengage and run away due to how long it takes to kill a player. This is a huge concern. I've seen a lot of people say this. However, the increased super and ability times may improve gameplay. Who knows, it's a change, so we'll have to wait and see when it's live. Bungie does respond to this. Playtests have been really good and has definitely changed things. It's a lot of moving parts all at once. However, like I said, we're not claiming to be finished. This just felt like the right amount of change to put forth and let you all in to reevaluate it with us. So hopefully that concern is mitigated. Bungie saying playtests have been really good and it's changed up how things play. That's a good sign, but this is still a major concern. We'll have to wait and see. Another question on weapon balance reads, when compared to a rocket, which is an easy one-hit kill on up to several enemies, a sniper and a shotgun will always be overlooked. Always. It's an easy decision. Now I've got to say to this person, did you ever play Destiny 1? Because a seeking rocket with seeking projectiles, the Galahorn, was still overshadowed at some times by machine guns, like the Quillam's Terminus even, by sniper rifles. Shotgun apes were a huge problem. Like, there is definitely alternatives to rockets that do see play if things are balanced properly, and Destiny 1 is a great testament to that. But Bungie did reply, saying, I'm not going to imply that I can predict the future, but I can say that in combination with the ammo changes, there have been significantly less rockets in playtests. And I think that is an overall good thing. Remember, in the update, Bungie did state that rockets ammo would be reduced, so likely you'll only be able to pick up one rocket with a power ammo pack. This makes more sense because there's going to be so many more power ammo packs, and therefore it will give other weapons a chance to utilize more. Moving on, another weapon balance question reads, just wondering why no fusion rifle changes. Do y'all think they're good as is? I have no problem in PvP, but they seem a little weak in PvE compared to other power weapons. Cheers, can't wait to try the changes. Bungie does respond. We've bumped up linear fusions to make them much better. Standard fusions are left unchanged for now. I think that's a great question, and I happen to agree. You know, in PvE, you're using rockets with cluster bombs pretty much every time. It is interesting that Bungie said they're bumping linear fusions to make them much better. So hopefully, a significant power increase in PvE will make linear fusions see more play. I mean, the Sleeper Simulant definitely saw a ton of PvE play in Destiny 1, so having a powerful linear fusion, that does definitely have a potential place in the PvE meta. Now, with the massive increase in the frequency of power ammo in PvP with the March update, I'm sure some of you are a little concerned about some power ammo spam, especially with a grenade launcher. Don't know if you've heard of it, the Colony. That thing is everywhere, even with the current meta. Someone asked about this saying, the Colony is rife at the moment, but its ammo supplies are being raised with power ammo frequency, right? Bungie responds, Colony stays at 4 shots per pull. We feel it's good enough as it is. Good decision right there, let me just say. And the reply is, gotcha, but doesn't that still mean more potential ammo as power ammo spawns more often and blocks can be picked up from enemies and teammates? Not trying to be combative, just worried that the Colony spam might get even worse. Bungie responds to that. Yup, but this patch we wanted to establish a new baseline and balance around that instead of holding on to preconceived notions of the previous build. We're open to tuning this based on feedback though, and another Bungie developer responded to that saying, we definitely had people running Colony in playtests, but with the buffs to movement speed, snipers, and shotguns, it felt like there were more counters available overall. We didn't want to crush it to the ground for no reason. Again, we'd rather balance stuff around cool things. I think that response is very fair, and actually that's exactly what I want to see. It's weird to me that people want to nerf the Colony, like the one good exotic, the one exotic that people are actually giving up their exotic slot for in PvP. You want to crush it? No, we should have other things more viable. All you need is one other exotic to be as good as or better than the Colony, and you've essentially gotten rid of Colony spam because you can only have one exotic weapon at a time. You gotta choose what you're gonna run. Now, moving on from there, we have some questions about ability tuning. The first one is any info on why super recharge times are going to be faster instead of giving more super energy per kill. I think the latter would raise the skill gap. I like the Destiny 1 super system much more for this reason. Bungie responded. It was a big global change for PvE and PvP. Remember, it's like 25% increase across the board. We felt like it was just too long in general. That being said, we actually did bump up those amounts some too, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I need to make sure I put that into the patch notes. So that's really interesting. So not only is your supercharging 25% faster overall all the time, but you're also getting more super energy per kill. That's going to result in, 35%, 40% faster? Who knows, depending on how much you're killing enemies. But yeah, supers are going to be utilized a lot more after the March update, that's for sure. The next question relates to the abilities buff, saying ability cooldowns up to 2 times faster and stack 3 times currently or diminishing returns. Bungie clarified, a triple stack will give you 2 times. So if you have one armor mod that increases grenade recharge, for example, it's 1.33 times, 2, 1.67 times, and 3 a maximum of twice as fast for that specified ability. Next up, we have a question about armor. The question reads, we've heard a lot about weapons archetypes, cooldowns, and exotic weapons, but nothing about exotic armor. Any way you can tell us some of the changes happening? They're just as important to the builds everyone wants to create. Bungie responds, we're definitely looking at exotic armor. I'm confident the day will come where we can share information like we did with weapons. So that's good news, and I think that's something a lot of people do overlook. Bungie has talked about an exotic pass, like rebalancing a ton of exotics. They gave the example of the Graviton Forfeit, for those who don't know really quickly. They're changing it to a 2-burst weapon, so it mathematically kills faster than pretty much every other pulse rifle. They're making it so that the explosion is bigger, it happens more efficiently, and it releases seeking projectiles that track targets. And they're making it so that it has better aim assist and less recoil. They're making it a lot more powerful. And if they're doing that kind of stuff to weapons, it only serves that armor, exotic armor, is also getting some pretty big buffs. Perhaps we'll see the return of exotic armor actually giving extra grenades and extra melee charges. That would be huge for making builds more possible. Now moving on, we have a couple of questions about the pretty big topic of removing radar in competitive and trials matches. This is a huge point of contention. This is a big debate going on within the community, whether this will be a good thing or a bad thing. Personally, I'm interested to see how it plays out. Maybe it's better. It's a totally different game than Destiny 1. Is a totally different meta, and we only have one weekend of Spooky Trials in D1 to go off of. So we'll have to see. It may not be the be-all and end-all fix for everything, but again, I'm interested to try it out. Now, something interesting is that someone asked, hey, will it still display the locations of where you are, or will that be gone altogether with the radar? Bungie said, yup, so we will still have those locations displayed where you are on the map, you just won't have your actual tracker. Now, someone else talked about, your roadmap is looking good so far, however, instead of removing the radar in comp and trials, I propose you limit the range of radar as a whole for all PvP playlists. I believe the radar's range is the problem. Removing it altogether feels counterintuitive. So, Bungie did actually reply to that. We played like that for a while. It feels broken when you see someone closer than you'd expect, but your tracker is telling you that no one is there. That being said, like I said in the This Week at Bungie, these changes are a step forward and not the end. Let's play it live and go from there. So that's kind of an interesting point. I think a lot of people have kind of talked about that. Well, why don't you just reduce the range? And Bungie's saying, because of the sightlines, because of how the maps are designed, it's super weird when it says, yeah, no one's there and you're being shot at by the guy in front of you. You know what I mean? I can somewhat understand that. I feel like there might be a happy medium where you reduce the range a little bit, but not a ton. Again, this is all going to be new stuff. We're going to have to see. And guys, that's kind of it for all of the questions we're going to go over. Now, this isn't every question. If you want to see that, again, check the Reddit link down below. There was some more talk about, basically there's a lot of people who play Night Stalker in PvP who are not happy, and Bungie saying, look, Night Stalker is still good, guys. It's not nerfed to the ground, it's still very competitive, it's just not as insane as it once was. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. Please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video if you did. Now if you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, be sure to follow me on Twitter. That is linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.